In this demo, I will show you how to prepare the workstation and how to use Knife without Chef Server. First, we create a new project directory. I'll name it Chef. Then I'm going to clone the Chef demo Git repository. In this Git repository, I have the Vagrant file, the same one I used during the lectures. Let's take a look at the Vagrant file. The first machine that I want to spin up is the workstation. I'll type Vagrant up workstation. While it is spinning up, I'm going to download the Chef DK. At chef.io, I can click Get Chef. And I can download the Chef development kit for Debian, Mac, Red Hat, or Ubuntu. Our Vagrant machine is going to be Ubuntu, so I will download it for the Ubuntu Linux machine. When I download it, make sure you save it in the Vagrant project folder. That way we can use it inside the Vagrant box. You can also download the Chef server. Chef server is available for Red Hat Linux and for Ubuntu Linux. We will need it later. In the meantime, Vagrant is up, so I'm going to do Vagrant SSH workstation. In Vagrant, I have the Chef DK, the one that I downloaded, because I put it in the project folder. So I'm going to install Chef DK using dpkg-i. And I need to do this as root. I'm going to create a Chef directory to put my configuration file in. I'm going to edit my Chef knife.rb. I'm going to add just this line, cookbook path / home vagrant cookbooks. I'm going to create this directory cookbooks. I'm going to cd into it, and I'm going to type chef generate cookbook my cookbook. And this will generate the files necessary to write our own cookbook. I'm going to edit the metadata.rb. I'm the maintainer. You can put your email address. The first cookbook that I'm going to write is going to depend on apt. So I add a line, depends apt. I'm going to use the same recipe that I showed you during the lecture, and I'm going to copy it from the Git repository. So my Git repository is in /vagrant, and I will copy the recipe default RB. I will save it in my cookbook in recipes. So you see here, this is the recipe to install New Generation Engine. I'm just going to edit this cookbook and remove a couple of lines, because template is what we're going to do in one of the next lectures. Then I'm going to run the Chef client using sudo chef client -z, and my run list will be the recipe my cookbook, and it will use a default recipe in my cookbook. This starts a Chef client, and it gives us an error. It says no such cookbook apt, because if I type ls here, then you can see only my cookbook, and we haven't downloaded the apt cookbook yet. There are multiple ways to do this. One way is to use burks. So we do burks init. It says that we need Git if you want to download cookbooks from Git repositories, but we're not going to do that. So we're not going to install Git just yet. Then if you do burks install, it's going to fetch the dependencies. It's going to look in the metadata. It's going to fetch and install apt. By default, it installs it into burk shelf. So here you can see where it is installed. Another way of using burks is using burks vendor. And burks vendor will create a directory with all the cookbooks and the dependencies. So what we can do is just move this apt directory to cookbooks, and then we will have in our cookbooks directory apt and my cookbook. And this will work with our KnifeRB, because if you take a look in KnifeRB, this is where the cookbook path in KnifeRB is pointing towards. Let's run Chef Client another time. And now it should resolve apt, and it's going to install new generation engine on this server, because Chef Client -Z is the local mode and is going to install everything on the same machine. And it finished installing. We can now test by using curl localhost where the new generation engine is installed. And it is indeed installed. I'm getting back a hello world.